Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 227 of the podcast, or you're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube. Today is Saturday, at least for the next 50 minutes, February 6th. We are coming off of UFC Fight Night 184, which ended about 10 or 15 minutes ago. Before we get into any of that, let me introduce, all the way from New Jersey, sporting a fresh new haircut, Jeff, the Animal Wilson. Jeff, you guys still buried under snow up there? What's going on?
Yeah, dude. We got like a gazillion inches of snow. We had rain yesterday, so it melted a little bit the last 2 days, but it's just there's nowhere to put it all, man. And we're supposed to get more snow tomorrow, Bill. It sucks. It's like being in Syracuse.
You would think they would invent some kind of like hot iron plow that, like, as soon as it touches the snow, it just melts it and then like kind of pushes the rest away and turns it to slush and it just drains. I don't know, Jeff. I'm not a scientist, and this is why I moved to Florida, so I don't have to think about these things anymore. We've had beautiful weather here.
Yeah, I hope it stays that way for the Super Bowl tomorrow.
No, I hope it snows. I hope it snows in Tampa for the Super Bowl. I remember when I was a kid, when I used to watch football more, I used to love the snow games. Those were so much fun. And when I would play the Madden football and on like Sega Genesis, I would always set it to like a snowy game. I don't know why. I just always enjoyed those. I think it was just made it more interesting. In any case, before we get into any football or MMA or anything else, I want to remind everybody that they can get their MMA on the Rocks gear from our friends at Team Reaper. The website is reaper1.co. You can use the promo code MMA Rocks 10. That's MMA ROCKS10. I happen to be wearing a Team Reaper shirt right now, Jeff. They're super comfortable. And it's not even my shirt. I'm just, repping the brand over here. And as I mentioned last week, we do have tank tops now, which was news to me. I just went to the website to get the links to post somewhere else. And I saw MMA on the Rocks tank tops. And I'm like, well, that's fucking cool. So you can get your tank tops, hoodies, t-shirts, and then you can get your MMA gear, MMA sparring gloves, jiu-jitsu gis, or you can go ahead and support a fighter. They're closing in on 100 fighters now, Jeff. They just signed their first UFC fighter, Hannah Goldie. So big congratulations to Team Reaper on that. Big things coming for those guys. They're very ambitious. They've got a ton of local fighters here, a lot of really cool gear, a lot of really cool t-shirts. So definitely go check them out. Reaper1.co. I'll put the link to our merchandise, as always, in the show notes wherever you happen to be listening or watching the show. So go ahead and support them. And then Super Bowl tomorrow, Jeff. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care much for football, Jeff. You know this. I used to be a big football fan. I enjoy watching it when I'm around other people that are into it, but it just became too time consuming for me. You spend all of Sunday watching football, and then you got to watch Monday night and Thursday night and forget about it if you're into college football. It just takes up so much time. I'll probably watch the game tomorrow. I'll at least have it on at the house, but I'm all about like the snacks and the beverages, and I feel like shit. I've got a bit of a head cold, as I was telling you, but I couldn't let the listeners down. I had to have a drink during the show, so I wanted to preview what I'm going to be sipping on tomorrow, and I guess this reflects who I'm going to be cheering for in the game, because as you can see, this beer, for those of you watching this show, it says Go Go Gronkzilla, and this is a double dry hopped red IPA by Motorworks, which is a local brewing company. They're in Bradenton, Florida, which is pretty close to Tampa. And I may not be into football, Jeff, but I'm really into red IPAs and red ales. So I'll give a little cheers to the Buccaneers and a cheers to the Chiefs too. I hope they all have fun tomorrow.
All right, Bill, what's the diagnosis here? What do you think?
It's pretty good. It's a little bitter. Like, I guess Rob Gronkowski's a little bitter because he had to come out of retirement to play with Tom Brady again. But it's good. It's very light. Usually the red ales are a little. Sometimes they could be like too heavy, too syrupy, you know. But this one's nice. It's got a nice lightness to it. 6.5% alcohol. It's good. This will be nice tomorrow. It's a good day drinking beer. As I'm sipping on it at 11:15 at night with a head cold. My taste buds may be a little bit off too.
Yeah, but it'll clear out your sinuses, so you should be fine.
I certainly hope so. Thin out the blood. A little bro science, right?
Yeah.
So Fight Night 184 just ended, so that's fresh on our brains. But before we get into that, I want to talk real quick about Bare Knuckle. It's hard not to laugh when I bring it up because like some of the stuff that happens is just so silly. Knuckle Mania was the event that took place last night, Jeff. It was in Lakeland, which is like basically the city in between Tampa and Orlando. And then there's like nothing else in between at all. It's like there's Tampa, there's like 30 miles of nothing, there's Lakeland, there's 30 miles of nothing, and then there's Disney World. So this happened, and first and foremost, I have to give a shout out to one of my jiu-jitsu coaches, Jeff Bailey, who did fight on this card. He was the opening fight. You kind of had to be friends with him on Facebook to be able to see it because it wasn't aired on the stream on the prelims. But he did win with a first round knockout, minute 30 seconds into the first round. Knocked the guy down twice. Very experienced fighter that he fought. And I should give that guy's name while I'm at it here. Drew Lipton. So shout out to Jeff Bailey. It's been a long time since he's competed, and he shows that he's still got it. You know, I'm not sure what his intentions are, if he's going to continue competing, continue doing bare knuckle, or go back to MMA or what. But you know, shout out to him. Looked good in there. He's still got a mean uppercut. This event was interesting, Jeff. There were some. It's still hard for me to get into the bare knuckle just because you see like the cuts and the scar tissue that's formed. And I sent you the picture of those two young ladies that just brutalized each other for 5 rounds. And let me give their names real quick. Carissa Segala and Taylor Jenkins. If you want to see some real female on female violence, this was a bloody war. These two girls looked, completely disfigured, and they're both pretty young girls, and just beat the snot out of each other. I don't know, they might have swapped blood types. I think I think they definitely exchanged some fluids in this one. A couple of other things to touch on. Chris Leben had his final fight last night, BKFC Knuckle Mania. Of course, Chris Leben from the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, one of the most entertaining fighters of all time. Just a true fighter's fighter. He's only asked for 2 fights in his life. He's only chosen his opponents twice. When he fought Vanderlei Silva. And last night he fought a guy by the name of Quentin Henry, who was undefeated in BKFC. And the Crippler got it done, knocked him out in the first round. There was a little bit of like a weird occurrence, though, because Leben punched him in the eye. And he caught it was all knuckle in the eye, but it looked, I guess Quentin said it was an eye poke. And he went down and he was screaming and yelling. And then they went and looked at the replay and they were like, all right, on the replay, it was a punch. It was a knuckle that went in your eye. So if you don't want to continue, it's going to be a TKO loss for you. But you have 5 minutes, which I don't know how the replay works, Jeff, but they were like, we saw it wasn't a finger that went in your eye. It was a punch. And you could see his eye was clearly damaged. He probably got a fractured orbital. But they were like, all right, set the clock for 5 minutes. But if you can't continue, you lose. And I was like, wait, why does he still get 5 minutes if they saw on the tape that it wasn't a finger? But maybe once they ruled it an eye poke, they have to give him the 5 minutes. And then with the replay, they were just letting him know, like, hey, if you aren't able to continue, you lose. But he wound up losing anyway. But Leben was able to get the more like highlight reel knockout. 40 years old is the Crippler. Would have liked to see him hanging up a little sooner, personally. I mean, here's a guy who'd been in so many wars and, he suffered for it, along with other, substance abuse problems he had over the years. But give me your thoughts, Jeff. Any reaction to Chris Leben laying down the gloves, even though he didn't have gloves on last night?
Hey, good for him, man. I hope he finds success in whatever he does next, man. Chris Leben, he's been in some classics, man. Definitely a very skilled fighter, and it's a shame, that skill came with the other side of the coin, with, like you said, the substance abuse and everything. But yeah, dude, Chris Leben, if nothing else, he was entertaining to watch, man. So,
yeah.
So good for him that he's able to ride into the sunset with a win under his belt.
Yeah, he was entertaining to watch even outside of the cage on that first season of The Ultimate Fighter. What a character, man. He was just like getting drunk in the house and just shouting things like, I'll smell like booze and dirty strippers and still put the stamp on anyone in here.
Oh, man.
So that's it, man. Chris Leben, and now him and Diego Sanchez were the only active fighters from that first season, I believe. And Diego Sanchez just got booked to fight Cowboy Cerrone in his final fight. So that's it, man. That's the end of an era upon us with that first cast from that Ultimate Fighter, which is such a great piece of television. It really helped bring MMA into the mainstream. Yeah. Awesome. And then the co-main event of BKFC, kind of a controversial decision. Dat Nguyen winning the bantamweight title from Johnny Bedford. It looked to a lot of people, myself included, that Bedford had won, but the decision went to Dat Nguyen. I don't know what they're looking for with judging criteria with bare knuckle. It seems to be all over the place, like a little, maybe more so than MMA. It seems like they like to see blood spilt. In any case, the main event, the main attraction of this all was obviously Paige VanZant signing with the promotion. She was very vocal about being unhappy with the UFC and the amount of money she made, and how she made more money on her Instagram than she made in the UFC. And now she was getting paid 10 times as much to do bare knuckle boxing. I was concerned for her taking this fight, and I was talking to a couple of people privately, and I said, the girl she's fighting, Britain Hart, she has her record isn't impressive, but all of her experience is in boxing or bare knuckle boxing, whereas Paige VanZant's experience is all MMA, and it's just very different. So Britt Hart wound up winning this fight In my opinion, she won the first 4 rounds, and Paige didn't start to figure it out until the 5th round. So Paige was clinching Britt a lot in this fight, but she wasn't doing anything with the clinch. So while Britt was being clinched, she was landing punches to the body and just throwing flurries in there against Paige. She gave her a nice mouse under her left eye that wound up exploding. So she got pretty bloody over this, and it was a big gamble for BKFC. I mean, it paid her almost $500,000. This is for a company that's not bringing in a ton of revenue. I don't imagine their pay-per-view sales are through the roof. They did sell out the arena, but the live gate usually covers the cost of the production. That's just how a lot of these events work. So it was a big risk. And then, their superstar that they're bringing in, they were touting this as like the biggest event in bare knuckle history. And then she loses. So the gamble didn't necessarily pay off. And it would be nice if they could build a star in Britain Hart, but then, Britt had kind of an uncomfortable post-fight interview where some junkie from the first row came out and got in the ring and got in Britt's face, and Britt dumped water on her head and started calling her trash. And it was wild, Jeff. And then she started screaming, "I'm not a person, I'm a feeling." And nobody seems to know what that means. So yeah, just it was a whole thing. But the positive thing for BKFC is they got a lot of people talking about it. But give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Bill, nobody knows what it means. All right, it gets the people going. All right.
I guess it worked then. Mark Phillips wants to know if she was on mushrooms. I believe meth is the drug of choice around here, Mark. Yeah, she's a mythical creature.
Bill, I think we have the name of the episode right here, but
right off the bat.
Bill, congrats to Coach Jeff Bailey. I've been able to work with him one time that I went to go visit you. I think it was the last time I went to visit you, actually, which feels like 10 years ago.
It could have been.
Because of, the pandemic and everything. But, Bill, this Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't know, dude. It just feels too much like the early pro wrestling days when they did it in people's backyards. What it feels like to me. But congratulations to Paige VanZant. I'm sorry that the UFC couldn't cover, the wages that showing your whole naked body on OnlyFans could. I'm sorry you don't have to get a real job for a living, I guess. Is it weird that I don't feel bad for her?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, she was probably making more, $40,000 the show, $40,000 to win. She was probably making more than most fighters who were at the same point as her in their career. A lot of people at that point are making the minimum, which I believe now is 12 to show, 12 to win. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's not the kind of career that you get into if you want to be rich and famous. It's got to be, that you're passionate about fighting and about competition. And, let's be honest here. Like, this girl, Britain Hart, was brought in to get knocked out by Paige VanZant, and she couldn't get that done. So now, like, I believe she had a multiple fight contract. Like, do you bring her back and pay her almost another $500,000? And like, who do you give her? You give her somebody that's a step down from Britain Hart. It's quite a problem, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to solve it for the promotion here, because they spent a lot of money on something. They took a big risk. They were banking on it going a certain way. And I got to tell you, Jeff, when the fight ended, I was like, oh, well, Britain Hart won 4 of those rounds, so Paige will win the decision. Like, that's just how. Because when my teammate Dave Mundell fought Hector Lombard in the BKFC, he beat him 3 rounds to 2. And Hector had some cheap shots in there as well. And it was a clear victory. Like it wasn't. I don't think it was. I don't think it was that close. I thought it was a very clear 3-2, and the decision went to Hector Lombard because he's a bigger name and he's making more money. So I just assumed the judges and BKFC are bought and paid for, which is not unreasonable because it does have boxing in the name. But
yeah,
in any case, thank you, Chris Leben, for all the memories. And we'll leave it. We'll put this story to rest on a positive note. I had a little health scare this week, Jeff, as I told you about. On Monday, I was sitting at my desk at work, and my arm just started seizing up, and I got to be honest, it scared the shit out of me. I thought I was having like a stroke or like a heart attack or something. I didn't know. It didn't feel like a cramp. It didn't feel like anything I've ever felt before. It just felt like I didn't have control of my arm. And it was twitching like this. And I felt like I had to hold my arm a certain way to get the circulation going. It turns out everything is fine. And I just had like a panic attack, I guess, because I never felt anything like this before. But long story short, we had a leak at our office, and there were some crumbled drop ceiling tiles in a trash bag, and I brought it out to the dumpster, and I couldn't lift the bag up because it was wet ceiling tiles. It was too heavy. So I just lifted, and plus it would have ripped the bag. I lifted up the trash can and dumped it into the dumpster. And maybe an hour or two later is when this sensation started happening. So my wife took me to urgent care. I was still freaking out there. I was like, I don't know what to do. Do I go to an emergency room? Like, what do people do when this shit happens? I was like, I thought my heart was going to stop at any minute or something. So the doctor talked me through it and basically said that I had pinched a nerve, and that was causing the twitching. And I was also dehydrated. So yeah, man, I guess just, signs of getting old were like things. If it was 5 years ago, I would have picked that trash can up with one hand and chucked the whole thing into the dumpster. But now I go to pick it up and I turn it upside down and I pinch a nerve, and 2 hours later, I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm not gonna lie, Jeff. It was a scary thing, and I'm not. I mean, you know me a long time. I'm not the type of person to panic about anything. Yeah. I've been in a lot of high stress situations. As a firefighter for 7 years, I've been in burning buildings. I've been in cage fights. I've done a lot of crazy shit in my life, and never really known to panic, which was what was freaking my wife out at the time too, because she had never seen me stressed out like that. I guess I just had like a panic attack, which they say could feel like a heart attack, because I was feeling something in my body that was not familiar. It didn't feel like a cramp or anything, but that was that. Moral of the story, I guess, is stay hydrated. And, it was a weird thing too, because then the next day is when I started to have pain in my shoulder. The day after that, the pain moved to my neck. And then the day after that, it moved to my other shoulder. So I just had this pain traveling through my body like a fucking tourist. And that was the beginning of my week. And then once that started to feel better, I came down with this head cold. And here we are, Jeff, talking about bare knuckle boxing and MMA. So I don't know. Any reaction to that? I know I've already told you this story.
Yeah, Bill, I'm glad you're okay, man. You had me spooked for a little bit too. If you had told me like when it was happening, I probably would have freaked out, because I'd be like, oh shit, man. But Bill, I'm glad you're okay, man. And maybe take a couple of days off from, maybe just stick to shadow boxing for this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to hit pads this weekend, Bill.
No, none of that. I did go to the gym today, but I just went to watch. We got a few guys with fights coming up, so I just wanted to check in on them. And I went for a bike ride this morning just to stay active. I was thinking about it this morning, Jeff. I was like, oh, haven't had a drink in a few days, and I can't really work out hard. was like, what do I do with myself? I don't really have any other hobbies. Like it's like I work out really hard so I could take in a lot of liquid calories. And then outside of that, there's not a whole lot I do. I spend time with my daughter and that's it.
Yeah, but that in itself is exhausting, Bill. So maybe you need to take a break from that for like a day or two.
It is a full-time job. It's funny because that night, after everything happened, I had an ice pack on my shoulder, and Ariana was like, "Daddy, what happened?" I said, "Oh, Daddy hurt his shoulder." "You hurt your shoulder? Come sit on the couch and get comfy. I'll read a book to you."
Oh man.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was, she has her moments where she just catches me so off guard. I'm not used to her talking. It was like overnight where she could just communicate. So like, and she's funny too. So she just comes up with this shit out of nowhere. And I'm like, a few months ago, you weren't saying anything. And now you're cracking me up. I got a little comedian walking around here. In any case, I guess we should talk about the fights that just happened, Jeff, because they just happened. So where do you want to start with this card? I mean, we had it seemed like we had a pair of fighters led out to pasture, so to speak, in the main and co-main event. You want to start at the top and work our way down, or what?
Yeah, I mean, if they were livestock, Bill, we probably would have had to put them down. Like, we wouldn't even be able to sell them for meat at this point.
Well, I don't know. Overeem, you could probably get a pretty penny.
He's about 2,000 pounds. Yeah,
some cannibalistic country. They're like, they've been injecting this guy with horse meat his whole life. Yeah, so let's start there. And man, was I wrong about this one. This is why I don't do picks, Jeff, because I don't want people parting their money based on what I say, because I know I can sound like I know what I'm talking about sometimes. It's not a rare skill, but it's a skill I have. I talk into a microphone every week and people listen to it. So I assume based on that, they think I know what I'm talking about, but I can't predict what will happen, especially in a sport like this. And I said I couldn't see how Volkov beats Overeem last week. And a lot of you probably don't even remember me saying that, but I'll put my own head on the chopping block here. I didn't see it going down like this. And what we saw was a flat Alistair Overeem. It looked like, he wasn't ready to be in there. He was doing his typical back up against the cage and shell up, which is not what you should be doing in MMA. And it usually confuses guys. I remember the best example was he did it to Roy Nelson, and Roy couldn't see a way to get through Overeem's shell, and he was just looking confused, and then he just drops for a double leg because he didn't know what else to do. And you could see Volkov was confused by it too in the first round, but then he realized if he just started throwing straight punches, they would go right through Overeem's hand, and he got bloodied up. Wasn't really offering a whole lot of offense. He landed 2 big overhand lefts and a few kicks, but other than that, he was not in this fight at all. He got beat to a bloody pulp, and Volkov proved me wrong, and he looked fantastic. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, Bill, I got to go down with the ship here because my dumbass agreed with you last week. but Bill, Overeem it looked like he didn't have a game plan. I don't know if he was gonna do the Artem Lobov strategy, where you just let the other guy tire out and then maybe try to win in the last round.
Yeah, like Homer Simpson.
Yeah. But dude, he didn't offer anything. I mean, he offered a couple of half-hearted takedowns. And dude, those lefts, he was throwing them with everything, dude. He would throw them with so much wind-up that he'd end up like when he followed through with the punch, his back would be to Volkov. Dude, it wasn't the right game plan. And Overeem, I think he kind of counted his chickens before they hatched. I think he underestimated Volkov. We've seen that be his downfall in the past against Bigfoot Silva and even against Stipe Miocic. He underestimated him too. And I think,
well, in fairness, Stipe tapped.
Yeah, exactly. So he just thought the fight was over. But yeah, dude, it was a little, and Volkov was really focused. Something that DC mentioned was that Volkov didn't have to worry about someone shooting in on his legs. So it kind of opened up for him to use his boxing really well. And, Volkov, I think he did a great job of using the reach advantage as well. So, Volkov, he looked really good in there. He's asking for a title shot after this. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he needs to beat somebody else in the top 5. Maybe Derek Lewis again, fight him again. But yeah, Bill, I don't know. What do you do with Volkov here? And what do you do with Overeem too?
Well, Volkov is going to have to go on the shelf. Maybe a rematch with Curtis Blades. But I heard DC kept talking about the not worrying about someone shooting in on his legs. If you look at his last few opponents, the only wrestler he fought really was Curtis Blades. His last fight was Walt Harris. Then he lost the decision to Curtis Blades. Obviously, that's a wrestler. Then it was Greg Hardy, Derek Lewis, Verdum, who is a ground fighter but doesn't wrestle, Stefan Struve. And then the last person who I would call a grappler who doesn't even use his grappling is Roy Nelson. So I don't know. I didn't really see it. And then his last loss before coming to the UFC was against Czech Congo, who's not a wrestler. So I was a little bit confused by that, where they were saying like, oh, he's always having guys dive after his legs. He punched Derek Lewis in the face for 5 rounds and, lost in the final seconds. And Derek Lewis, didn't shoot for a single takedown, I don't believe. But yeah, man, he looked really sharp. That was the best his striking had looked. That's 2 knockouts in a row over top competition. But, before that, he does have the loss to Curtis Blades. So I think he's going to have to redeem that loss before he sees the title. And plus, the heavyweight title picture is going to be tied up for at least a year because you have Stipe and Ngannou. If Ngannou wins, then you're probably going to have to do a rematch, or John Jones has already been promised the winner of that. So you're looking at, that fight's probably going to be in July sometime. And then depending what happens there, if there's like a close fight between John Jones and Stipe, they'll run that back, in the November timeframe. So if you're Volkov, you can't just sit out and wait for a title shot. As far as Overeem, I still want to see the Derek Lewis fight. Those guys have a little bit of heat. Derek Lewis maybe has a little bit too much momentum to get in there with a guy who just got knocked out. But, if Derek Lewis loses his next fight, I'd say throwing him and Overeem in there together makes a bit of sense because they don't seem to like each other. So that's what I would do with both of these guys.
Yeah, it's hard to give to even see Volkov in the title picture in the foreseeable future. I mean, you've also got Cyril Gane fighting Rosenstruck, and I feel like if Cyril Gane wins that fight, he's gonna have some momentum. He's been tearing up the heavyweight division very silently. So I think I agree with you, Bill. Volkov, he's probably got to take a couple of months off, and I feel like he still has to prove himself, unfortunately. And as for Overeem, I don't know, man. I feel like Overeem versus anybody is a really fun fight. Like you said, I don't think Derek Lewis is going to be put in his path just because of the momentum that he's got going. But yeah, I feel like Overeem, you could kind of put him against anybody and it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, you could put him in there against that NFL guy. And, see if he's really got what it takes to stick around. That's if he wants to keep fighting. Volkov, the smart move would have been to call out the winner of the Rosenstrike Cyril Gahn fight. It would be like, I won the winner of that fight, and then that's the number one contender. That would have been a good play. Unfortunately for him, he's had impressive performances, but they're going to be forgettable because he just doesn't have that personality. He doesn't have, the ability to call for things on social media, not a huge following. I'm sure a lot of people are fans of seeing him fight, but how many people are going to, go to bat for him? Speaking of not a lot of personality, Corey Sandhagen in the co-main event. I mean, could there be a more dangerous guy with a drier personality? I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find one, but man, back-to-back knockout of the year contenders, that spinning wheel kick against Marlon Moraes, and then, one of the craziest flying knee knockouts I've ever seen. The way he was leading Frankie Edgar back and forth and then timed that knee, brought it underneath Frankie Edgar's left hand and up into his face. Dominic Cruz kept saying that Frankie was changing levels. What I saw was a slip to an overhand right that Frankie was setting up. And I think Corey just timed that head movement. He saw Frankie slip to throw the overhand. Frankie Edgar is one of the best of all time of throwing punches with his head off the center line. But it seemed like Corey was just, downloading that timing and just executed it perfectly, man. It was a perfectly timed knee. You have to hate to see a legend like Frankie Edgar go down like that. And even Corey looked like genuinely upset that he did that to Frankie Edgar. I mean, how do you not love Frankie Edgar? But yeah, man, knockout of the night, performance of the night, probably a contender for knockout of the year, and definitely put him in the running for a title shot. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, Bill, this one was tough to watch, man. You know me, Bill. I'm a huge Frankie Edgar fan. He used to train at a gym not too far from my house, actually, to work on his wrestling and stuff. Well, to keep it sharp anyway. But Bill, man, this was tough to watch, man. This was like almost as, man, I don't want to sound dumb saying this, but this was like losing like a family pet, man. That's what it felt like to me. Because he went down like a felled tree, dude. And then he went down like in slow motion. It was kind of scary to watch, man. And like, he got starched, dude, for lack of a better term. Like he wasn't moving for a little bit there. But yeah, I feel for Frankie, but a huge feather in Corey Sandhagen's cap. I can't take anything away from him. I think that if it weren't for that setback against Aljo, I think we'd be talking about the next person in line to fight Peter Yan. But dude, I don't know what you do if you're Frankie, Bill. I think it's time to maybe think about hanging it up and focus on the family and coaching. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one who knows how he feels. Everybody, anybody could get caught in this sport, and I mean that knee would have put out a horse. So it's hard to say. He had that bad knockout loss to Brian Ortega, and came back to have some great performances after that. But that's a scary one, man. I mean, he's already 39 years old. I believe he'll be 40 in October, but he's going to have to take a long time off after a knockout like that. I mean, he was stiff before he even hit the ground. Yeah, I mean, his last fight, he did beat Pedro Munoz, but then before that was the nasty knockout to Chan Sung Jung. And then that beating he took from Max Holloway. It's tough, man. 39 is really old to be fighting at bantamweight. If he moves up to heavyweight, he'll be the youngest fighter on the roster. But at the lighter the lighter weights, 39 is tough, man. But again, only he knows how he feels. But we've seen Frankie Edgar knocked out a few times in the last few years, and here's a guy with a legendary chin. And maybe that's due to the extra weight he's cutting. Maybe it's due to the age. Maybe it's due, to the volume of punishment he's taken over the years. I don't know. I feel like Frankie Edgar is a pretty smart guy, and he knows his body, and I feel like he's got some good people around him, like Mark Henry, who will tell him, when he's not performing to the same level. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. If he hangs it up, I'll totally understand. But if he truly believes, like, hey, I got a few more in me, he's, some interesting fights, I'd be open to hearing about that too. Another legend who actually had a good performance, kind of against the norm on this card, was Clay Guida, man. Also 39 years old, but I mean, he looked like the Clay Guida that arrived in the UFC however many years ago. Let's see. He has had 30 fights in the UFC already. Strikeforce lightweight champion. Made his UFC debut in October of 2006. And man, did he look good. He looked really fucking good tonight, Jeff.
Jeez, Bill. I was starting high school in 2006, and I think Clay Guida is now at 39 in better shape than I was in 2006. That's he's like the Energizer Bunny, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have like the same energy, like the same, but like he was a little bit slower. He didn't have as much bounce in his step, but still so relentless. And even the couple of times that Michael Johnson was able to land some big shots, he would just come right back and take him down. Michael Johnson, who is a very good wrestler, he's got a very solid wrestling pedigree. Junior college, he was one of the best junior college wrestlers in the country at one time. When he came through the Ultimate Fighter, that's all he was. He was a wrestler. He just took people down and would grind out victories. And then eventually he realized he had these lightning fast hands. And then we saw him knocking out people like Dustin Poirier. But Guida, man, he was just, that overhand right that's been his go-to his whole career, that blast double, that high crotch, like all the same things he's been doing for years, just worked. And then he gets into the post-fight interview and he's like, stop giving me veterans. Give me one of these up-and-comers. You got, like, how do you not love Clay Guida? This guy is awesome. He's already in the Hall of Fame for one of the greatest fights of all time against Diego Sanchez. Man, it seems like he's almost getting better with age. I mean, he's got a few losses, but his losses are to Bobby Green, Jim Miller, and Charles Oliveira as of late. I thought it was a great performance from the Carpenter.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, he looked fantastic, and like you said, just the aggression and the grind that he put Michael Johnson through. All three of the judges had it 30-27, 30-27, which is accurate. I mean, every round, Clay Guida was dominating. It looked like he was gonna finish with a rear naked choke there for a little bit, but Michael Johnson, super tough dude. But Bill, what do you do with Michael Johnson now? Because he's got maybe like 5 losses in his last 6 fights or something like that.
Yeah. It used to be 3 losses in a row and that was it. Guys who won the Ultimate Fighter tend to carry a little bit more weight, and then guys with like, career performances carry a lot of weight. He had that epic fight with Justin Gaethje. But yeah, man, he's lost 4 in a row. He has lost 7 of his last 9. It's not a good look. I don't know, man. And he's 34, which unless you're Clay Guida, that's like the age where, the wheels start to fall off. I don't know, man. He's had some, but then, some of these were like, controversial decisions that he's lost. So I think they give him a break on those, but I don't know, man. If they're letting go as many fighters as they say they are, he may very well get his walking papers after this one. And it'd be sad to see Michael Johnson go, because he's one of those guys that you feel like has always been around. Alexander Pantoja and Manel Kape, this fight sucked. I didn't.
I love your honesty.
And Kape looked like confused when they read the decision. To me, Pantoja was the only one in there trying to win the fight. Kape was being evasive and like dancing and acting like a goofball. It's like, dude, are you in there to fight, or are you in there to have a dance off? Like, what are you doing? He wasn't engaging, but then when he would, it seemed like he would hit takedowns at will. It looks like he's got a lot of skill. This is the guy that came over from Ryzen. People were expecting big things from him. At the end of this fight, all I could think was Pantoja was the only one that looked like he wanted to be in there. Give him the decision just based on that. And I got nothing else on this one unless you want to give some thoughts.
Nah, we can move on from this one. I'm basically in the same boat as you.
Perfect.
I'll forget this fight by tomorrow morning.
You know which one I won't forget? The fight of the night for me, Beneil Dariush and Diego Ferreira. The only problem I had with this fight was that it was judged a split decision. I have no fucking idea why. I could see like Beneil got caught a couple of times in the first round, but he won that first round. The third round was a little bit close, but I still gave all 3 rounds to Beneil Dariush. But this fight had everything. It had great like back and forth striking. It had some great grappling exchanges, although, it was mostly Dariush on top. Ferreira is always dangerous from the bottom. And he had some tricky positions. He was going for leg locks. He was going for triangles. He was going for whatever he could. Like, he was never out of the fight. That first round was the best round of 2021 so far, in my opinion. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, dude, this fight was super back and forth. I had the first round for Dariush. I felt like he lost the second one just because of the takedowns. But the third round was really close as well. I'll be honest with you, I could have seen this going either way. I thought Dariush won, but like barely. Like if you were to have a debate, and I feel like you'd be able to convince me of why Diego Ferreira won this fight. But dude, super close, very very entertaining, and I don't know if it won fight of the night, but if it definitely deserved it.
Yeah,
fantastic fight, man. Bless you. But yeah, dude. This was one of those fights that it set the tone for the card. I actually would have liked to see this as the opener, but the opener wasn't bad either. But man, yeah, Bill, I definitely could have seen this one going for Ferreira. Mark Fellows says, performance of the night, Volkov and Sandhagen, and fight of the night, Dariush versus Ferreira. I like those picks, Mark. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry to cut you off, Bill, but performance of the night, I think I would give to the light heavyweight opener in addition to Sandhagen.
I probably would have given it to Ode Osborne, who had a 26-second knockout in the first fight of the night.
That's the one fight I missed, dude.
Oh, that was only 26 seconds. You go back and watch it. It was a good fight. But yeah, that light heavyweight fight you were talking about, I guess, was Denio Marquez against Mike Rodriguez. Marquez just dominated this fight, and Rodriguez is a good fighter. But what I saw was that as soon as Marquez got on top of him, Rodriguez panicked.
Yeah.
And it looked like, he hadn't been in that situation before with like a heavy black belt on top of him, which I find unusual because he trains with Joe Lozon. So obviously Joe Lozon has to have some killer black belts in his gym, in addition to himself. But Lozon's not a huge guy. But Rodriguez looked like very uncomfortable. He looked like he was drowning with Marquez on top of him. So the submission was kind of inevitable when you see something like that. You see a guy that's like, oh, I gotta get up. And then, you could see him panicking. Like I was panicking, thinking I was having a heart attack on Monday. Like that was like the look on his face was probably the look that I had on my face on Monday. So yeah, Rodriguez, very unfortunate career so far in the UFC because he came in with a lot of hype. He had that weird fight with Ed Herman. You remember when it was supposed to be stopped? And like he like knocked Ed Herman out and they stopped the fight, but then they restarted it and then Ed Herman wound up submitting him. You remember this at all?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so he had that craziness happen to him and now he just got drowned by just a heavy black belt. Marquez looked good. He seemed like he was disappointed he didn't finish Rodriguez in the first round, which was weird. Like he was in the post-fight interview. He was like, I thought I would get him in the first round, but I had to get him in the second. So that was that. All right. I gotta grab a tissue, Jeff. So if you could just give me your thoughts on Rodriguez and then get into Devante Smith.
All right, so I'll be honest with you guys. Marquez looked fantastic in there. In every aspect of the fight, I thought he looked good. Unfortunately for Mike Rodriguez, like Bill said, I'm in the same boat. Rodriguez, he looked scared. He looked like he did not want to be there once the fight hit the ground. And man, you got to give it to Marquez here because he had such a tight squeeze on that rear naked choke. It looked like Mike Rodriguez was going to tap, and then like a second before he was going to tap, the ref felt his arm, and he was out. So huge credit to Danilo Marquez. And Bill, I'm just going over the finish of the fight because Rodriguez didn't tap. He just went out.
Yeah.
And man, you got to give it to Marquez. That was, a cobra snake level squeeze, dude. Like as soon as he was able to lock up that rear naked choke, I don't think the grip even mattered because of how tight that squeeze was.
Yeah, and he went for the modified grip, which I'm a fan of. Everybody seems to go for the hand behind the head in MMA, which I'm not a fan of because it's really hard to do, especially with the MMA gloves on. I don't know, like. For those of you who train jiu-jitsu and have never done MMA, I don't know if you've ever tried to put MMA gloves on and tried to, slip that hand behind somebody's head. I'm a fan of the modified grip anyway. I have a certain way of doing it. I find it's harder to defend because, when the hand is behind the head, it's a little easier to reach up and kind of pry it off. But with the modified grip, you can kind of hide it. I like to tuck it behind the shoulder blade, which is the proper way to do it. And Marquez didn't even have to get it that far because, like you said, he was using his shoulder to put pressure on those carotid arteries and put Rodriguez out. Very impressive performance. Another impressive performance was Devante Smith, man. He looked so good. It was unfortunate the way this fight had to end because obviously Justin Jane still had some fight left in him, but his eyeball looked like it had an alien growing out of it. So, any doctor who looks at that is like, dude, you can't fight anymore.
Yeah, Bill, I was actually looking at it and I was like, they're stopping this. Like, this dude can't even see right now. Like,
yeah.
It was so bad. But dude, can we just talk about Devante Smith for a second? Because that lateral drop, before the finish, my
Yeah.
goodness, that was gorgeous, dude.
Yeah, that was really nice. He blocked the ankle and then turned into it. And that move is it's so hard to get leverage on because he was already like at a lowered level. Usually for a lateral drop, you want to be standing like more upright, and have a little bit of spring in the knees. But the fact that he was so low when he executed that lateral drop it just showed his level of explosiveness and athleticism, like really impressive on that takedown. I'm glad you reminded me about that because that was crazy. But then even my daughter was looking. She's like, "Where's his eye?" I probably shouldn't be admitting that I'm letting her watch this stuff, but she was in the room. She was like watching her iPad, but like every now and then she looks up at the fights, and I'll ask her like who's gonna win, like the guy in blue or the guy in yellow, and she'll pick whichever color she likes at the time. But, she was sitting with me on the couch and she's like, "Daddy, where's his eye?"
So it's a fair question, Bill.
Yeah, neither could I, and neither could the doctor, which is why they had to stop that fight. But I mean, it wasn't looking good. I mean, James had some moments in this fight. He landed some shots, but Devante Smith was just all over him, man. He was just better everywhere. He out-grappled him. He outstruck him. He was faster. He was stronger. James still had a puncher's chance if he stayed in the fight, but, not the case. We got a lot more to go over, Jeff, so I want to kind of breeze over the rest of this card, and I'll give you the results, and you tell me what stood out to you the most, because we still have to take a look at UFC 258 for next week. Carol Rosa, pretty dominant victory over Jocelyn Edwards, unanimous decision. Lara Procopio, unanimous decision over Molly McCann, who I believe Molly McCann left her gloves in the cage. I can't confirm that after this fight. Sungwoo Choi, pretty handily disposed of Youssef Zalal, unanimous decision win there. Timur Valiev, pretty dominant over Martin Day, unanimous decision there as well. And then what I thought was one of the most impressive knockouts of the night was Ode Osborne, who knocked out Jerome Rivera in 26 seconds. What he did, Jeff, was, because I know you missed this fight, I've already spoiled the ending for you, so I'll tell you how it happened. Rivera threw a head kick at Osborne, and Osborne kind of slipped it and rolled with the kick, grabbed the leg, and then came back and threw a left, like right down the pipe, and knocked Rivera out. It was a really impressive performance. I highly recommend going back to watch it. Okay, and Mark is letting me know that Molly McCann left her gloves in the cage as a sign of respect to her deceased father, not retiring. All right, so I kind of ran through the first 5 fights of the night. Jeff, what stood out to you the most?
Bill, out of the fights I watched, because I'm going to say Osborne versus Rivera, because I definitely have to go back and watch that one. But for me, I was really impressed with Choi's win over Youssef Zalal. Sungwoo Choi, he had a really tough opponent in front of him. There's a little bit of hype behind Youssef Zalal. He's got a couple of wins in his pocket. He's dynamic. He's kind of an exciting fighter to watch. I've been keeping my eye on him. And, Choi went in there and just dominated, dude. Able to use the grappling. Even during the stand-up, he didn't have too many issues. But for me, I was really impressed with his grappling and how he was able to just shut down Youssef Zalal in this fight. I think that's a big feather in his cap, especially right now that they're both at an early stage in their careers. So I think these two, if they have really illustrious careers, which I think they will, I think they're going to meet somewhere down the line. So huge, huge win for Choi here.
Yeah, he was very impressive. Valiev, I feel like, was really impressive too, just smothering style.
Yeah.
Good card. It had some dry moments. It had some sad moments, where we saw some legends get taken out. But a lot of bright spots as well. Definitely a highlight performance for Corey Sandhagen, highlight performance for Volkov. Clay Guida looked fantastic. The Dariush Fidea fight was great. That was one of the best fights of the year so far, for me anyway. So it was a good card, but I feel like it did have some really dry moments where I just wasn't into it. I felt like, Overeem in there. I was just going through the motions watching the card,
Yeah, but most of that came from Corey Sandhagen's post-fight interview.
Yeah, it's like he almost killed a dude, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm pretty good." He reminds me of I don't know if you're familiar with an actor by the name of Jason Lee, Jeff.
I think it rings a bell.
He was in a lot of the Kevin Smith movies. He was in Chasing Amy. He plays. Have you seen Chasing Amy, Jeff?
That's on my list, and I have yet to watch it.
Oh, Jeff, you gotta watch. You're gonna love that movie. Great movie.
Are Jay and Silent Bob in it?
Yes, they are.
Okay, then I'm sold. I'll watch it.
Yeah, they make a cameo in that. But Jason Lee is actually a pretty good actor. I believe he's a Scientologist, or he became a Scientologist at some point. But pretty good comedic actor. I always found him amusing. And then he was in a Stephen King movie as well called A Dreamcatcher. That was really good. Yeah, so Mark says that if Sandhagen bores you, wait for Usman's post-fight interview if he wins. Usman will sometimes say something interesting, though. Like, he's a bit of a wild card.
Yeah.
Let's get into that, Jeff. UFC 258 next weekend at the Apex Valentine's weekend. Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, former training partners. And then Usman, it turns out, is the one that had to leave because Gilbert Burns is one of the grappling coaches.
Wow.
At
what is it, ATT that they're from?
No, it's not ATT. It's what they used to be, the Black Zillions, and then when that got dissolved and Henry Hooft left, a bunch of the guys went with him. It's that gym. But Kamaru Usman went to I believe he's with Trevor Whitman now in Colorado. This is an interesting one, man. It's hard to believe that anybody can put an end to Kamaru Usman's reign, but Gilbert Burns has been calling for this fight. Supposedly they've had some good sparring sessions in the gym. Gilbert was very honest about it. I heard him on the UFC Unfiltered podcast. He was saying, sometimes I would get the better of him. Sometimes he would get the better of me. I was always going to him when I was going to face a wrestler. He was always coming to me for jiu-jitsu. So like I said, it's hard to imagine anybody putting an end to this reign, but Gilbert Burns is asking for this fight, so he must know something that we don't. And Gilbert Burns, you can't deny the momentum. Yeah. Power momentum, Jeff. Here's a world grappling champion, some of the best jiu-jitsu, one of the best competitors in MMA. Here's a guy that's like, tell me the rules and what we're doing, and I'm there. And let's do it. I respect the fact that these guys are willing to fight each other, and there doesn't seem to be any animosity. Usman understands, like, this is his dream to be the champion. I'm the champion right now. Like, we gotta settle this. So I like that they still have a respect for each other. But give me your thoughts on this fight.
Yeah, Bill. I like the respect. 2, I think that if there's anyone who can put an end to the reign of Kamaru Usman, I think it's Gilbert Burns, just because of the momentum. We have that recency factor. Is recency a word? I don't think so.
Yes.
It's a word now. It's a word now. I have poetic license, but I'm an English teacher, so it's a word now. But
it's always been a word, Jeff.
All right, so then we're good. All right, but yeah, dude, it's hard to deny Gilbert Burns, dude. He's been on a tear in this welterweight division, and this welterweight division is stacked, man. Was able to beat the bricks off of Tyron Woodley, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest welterweight champions of all time, Bill. But, I'm a huge Tyron Woodley fan. So, yeah, I mean, their skills match up really well for Burns and Usman here. And, it's going to be really exciting. I love this matchup, dude, because they can do it all. They can grapple, they can strike pretty well. So this is going to be a really, really exciting fight, which, Kamaru Usman's had his fair share of not very exciting fights, but I don't think this is going to be in that category. I think this one's going to be a barn burner.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because I would give Usman has cleaner striking. He can probably land more, but I would probably give the power advantage to Gilbert Burns. Obviously, Usman has the wrestling advantage, but he's grappled a lot with Gilbert. He's going to want to take him to the ground, where he knows how dangerous he is. And then, we saw Gilbert Burns easily taking down Tyron Woodley, who's a much higher level wrestler than he is. Division I All-American. Usman, obviously a fantastic wrestler as well, Division II All-American. Will Burns be able to take Usman down? Does he have one takedown maybe that's always worked against him in training? I don't know. I'm really intrigued by this one. By the card I'm looking at, Jeff, I don't know what you're seeing, but I have the co-main event as Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso. Is that right?
Actually, I have that too, but I thought it was going to be
that can't be right. That's a shit fight.
I thought it was going to be Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson, but I just remember that's going to be on the card where Israel Adesanya is fighting for the light heavyweight belt.
Yeah, that one got moved around a little bit. I'll tell you what the co-main event should be. It should be Kelvin Gastelum and Ian Heinisch. That's a fucking fun fight.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I love that. That's a middleweight, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ian Heinisch is a killer in there. I don't, Bill, I'm a big Kelvin Gastelum fan, literally and metaphorically. But, dude, I don't know, man. I do not like his chances against Ian Heinisch, man. Ian Heinisch comes at you aggressively. He comes at you to take your head off. I don't know if Kelvin Gastelum is going to be able to deal with that pressure.
Yeah, and Gastelum having a rough go of it. I mean, he had that heel hook loss to Jack Hermanson in his last fight. And then, lost a split decision close fight to Darren Till, and then had one of the best fights of all time against the champ, Israel Adesanya, but 3 losses in a row. Yeah, man. That's a tough one. It's going to be a tough one for Gastelum, but Gastelum shines the brightest in these fights where he's supposed to lose. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited for that fight, actually. Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso, you could put that on the prelims for all I care. That's, and I would watch it, but I don't understand why that's the co-main event. But I am interested to see how Macy Barber is going to bounce back from that loss to Roxanne Modafferi, where she tore her knee apart. One, it was her first professional loss. 2, it demolished her goal of becoming the youngest UFC champion, because it just set her back too far to be able to reach that goal to beat what I believe is John Jones's title. We got a lot of fun fights on this card, Jeff. I'm gonna have you pick your sleeper fight. I'm gonna read off some fights to you here. We got Pedro Munoz and Jimmy Rivera.
That's it. You don't have to read the rest of them. That's the sleeper fight, dude. That sounds like a great fight at bantamweight.
Well, listen, we got more. We got Julian Marquez and Maki Pitolo. That's going to be a fucking barn burner. We got Jim Miller and Bobby Green. Those guys are going to get after it. We got Anthony Hernandez against the undefeated world grappling champion Rodolfo Vieira. And we got Bilal Muhammad against Diego Lima. That might be a sleeper for me.
Yeah, that's a good. That sounds like a really good fight too, dude. Although Diego Lima, I feel like he's hot and cold, but Bilal Muhammad always brings it, dude.
Yeah, that's my pick. I'm picking. I mean, I think I picked right last week. I picked Dariush and Fadea, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely a good pick.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with Bilal Muhammad and Diego Lima, but some other awesome fights: Mallory Martin and Polyana Viana, Ricky Simone and Brian Kelleher. That should be a fun fight. And Gabriel Green against Philip Rowe. Philip Rowe fights out of Orlando with Julian Williams' team over there, and he came through the Dana White's Contender Series. So I got a pull for the local guy. He does some cross training over here. Jillian Robertson against Miranda Maverick. Who Miranda Maverick, I believe, made a really good impression when she came into the UFC from Invicta last year. First round knockout in her UFC debut. This is such a fun card, Jeff. I'm really excited for this whole thing.
Yeah, Bill. My only complaint is the co-main. I think you could easily give that to Kelvin Gastelum versus Ian Heinisch, or Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera. I think could be a co-main as well.
Yeah.
But dude, top to bottom, this card looks awesome. Jillian Robertson, I believe she lost her last fight, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to see her bounce back from that. But I think that's a great way to open that card. For me, I love Jillian Robertson. I think she's so exciting to watch. She brings just this energy, and you can tell she just enjoys being in there.
Yeah, for sure. She lost her last fight to Talia Santos, so now they're putting her in there with a very hot prospect in Maverick. I got to say, I'm really intrigued by this Anthony Hernandez Rodolfo Vieira fight. Rodolfo is just a beast of a grappler, but Anthony Hernandez has quite a few submission wins. He's got 7 wins, 5 of them by submission. Although he has been submitted in the UFC before. Rodolfo Vieira, for those who don't know, just high class, top shelf Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's 7-0, 6 wins by submission, 1 by TKO. He's never been to a decision before, including 2 submissions in the UFC.
Who is this? That's Rodolfo Vieira?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Should be a good fight then. And Anthony Hernandez is no slouch either, dude. He's a very exciting fighter to watch too. This will be good.
Yeah, for sure. This is a really fun card. Yeah, man, we went past our typical hour. We've been doing that lately. There's been so much to talk about. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I'm excited for the Super Bowl later today because it's officially February 7th. And Bill, I'm glad you're doing better, man. Seriously, I'm glad you're okay, because I'm always worried about you, considering that you live in the hurricane capital of the USA. So I'm glad you're doing better, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I appreciate you checking in on me every day. Yeah, Super Bowl. Do you have a prediction?
I think it's going to be Tom Brady. I think Tampa Bay is going to win it. I think that people are underestimating Tom Brady, and I think that Tampa Bay, I feel like their defense has really been peaking in the playoffs. So I think it's going to be a totally different game because for those of you who do follow football, Kansas City actually beat Tampa Bay in the regular season, but it was I'm sorry. Yeah, Kansas City beat Tampa Bay, but it was really close. I think it was only it was like a 1 score, the difference. I think it was like 26 or 27, 21, something like that. So yeah, I think Tampa Bay is going to win it tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess so. It's been interesting to see here. It's been I don't really follow football, but you can definitely feel like the energy of the Super Bowl. And the stadium is actually pretty close to my shop. in Tampa. It's actually like right down the street. So I was driving to the car wash the other day, and I drove past the stadium, and they had like a whole Super Bowl village set up, and everywhere you see "Go Bucks" on people's cars and their front lawn. They set up like little T-shirt stands on the side of the road where they're selling Bucks T-shirts, and what's really concerning is like there's this pandemic going on everywhere else in the country, but here apparently. And from what I heard, there's this strip of bars in Tampa on what's called Howard Avenue, where like all the college kids go and hang out. And they said when the Bucks were in their last playoff game, they said the street was just packed with people, like just wall to wall, nobody wearing masks, just like jamming everybody into the bars. So then I was driving down Howard Avenue the other day. I was going to get lunch, and I saw they were setting up like barricades in the parking lot, like turning their parking lot into like viewing areas with projectors and stuff for the Super Bowl. So I hope everybody's gonna be smart and be safe out there. Keep in mind we're not through this thing yet. We don't have it beat. A lot of people out there getting their vaccines. I hear like some people are getting a little sick, but for the most part, people seem to be doing all right. I do plan to get it when it's available to me. Right now it's only the older folks in Florida that it's available to, and the first responders and things like that. And, they definitely deserve to get it first. But, just to protect the people around me, I do plan on getting the vaccine when I'm able to. Mark wants to know where he can buy some baby shower gifts. You could do that at my place of business. MarcellaGifts.com. You need some baby shower gifts. That's one of the very few times you'll hear a plug for my business.
All right, Bill. Well, since we're already here, they have custom designs too for masks. Listen, if you're gonna go through a pandemic, you might as well do it in style. That's what I've been doing. Bill, your wife was awesome and was able to help me out, and we worked on some custom masks, which my students, honestly, Bill, they absolutely love them. I'm always getting comments on how cool they are because they have the superhero logos on them. So, not to blow your own horn, Bill, but you guys are doing an awesome job.
Thank you. Yeah, we do a lot of custom and customizations and personalization is kind of what we've always done. Monograms and personalized baby gifts and stuff. So when the mask thing came up, our employees who are so talented figured out a way to make custom face masks, and we've gotten a lot of odd requests, I gotta say, Jeff, but we've been able to fulfill most of them. So yeah, we could put pretty much anything on a mask and do it like embroidered so that it looks good and holds up in the wash. But there you go, Mark. There's your answer for that. Mm-hmm. As far as everything MMA related, you can get a hold of Jeff at @animal_Wilson on Twitter and Instagram, and you guys can get a hold of me at MMA on the Rocks everywhere on the internet. Send me an email, MMAonTheRocks@gmail.com. Don't forget about our friends over at, I'm pointing to the wrong,
Rip Life, baby.
Put the links in the show notes, as always, wherever you are consuming the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please like, please share, please leave comments, all that stuff. Leave us a review if you have the time. We do appreciate it. Helps other people find the show. We do enjoy doing this, but it's nice to be talking to people instead of just to ourselves. But we'd be doing this anyway.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And I guess I don't know if we'll be doing the show next weekend, Jeff, because it'll be Valentine's Day. So I don't know if we'll squeeze it in or we'll see what happens. We'll see. I got a big Valentine and a little Valentine to take care of next Sunday. So we'll see what's going on with all this, but definitely excited for UFC 258. And that's all we got. So until next time. Go Gronkzilla. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.